cameras, and Denise has an extra one over there. She'll be kind of walking around helping. Tell us when you're ready, Kevin.
All right, it is 6:30. We'll call this special meeting in the Neoga Board of Education to order. Roll call, please.
Julie Butler. Here. Sean Finney. Here. Gerald Honflon. Michelle Sheehan. Here. Don Stroll. Here. Brian Titus. Here. Chuck Campbell.
Here. Item 3 is reception of guests and public communication. Anybody want to address the board tonight? Seeing none, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance real quick.
I don't actually have that on the agenda, but we can
Do it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Item 4 is the discussion and approval of a plan to restart school. Give it to Mr. Fritcher.
Okay, so you have a kind of a revised plan that we put at your seat tonight. So please take a look at that one. Denise and Kevin and I met earlier this week, made a couple of, I guess, fairly minor edits to that. Probably the biggest thing is that under remote learning, ISBE has now changed their rules, and our attorney is recommending that for those kids who choose remote learning, that we still are supposed to make extracurricular activities available to them. I'm not in agreement with that, but I think we probably need to follow that regulation. We are going to ask that those who choose remote learning call the school sometime prior to August 10th. It's about as late as we felt we could go and still be able to get information to our bus drivers so they can get routes and that sort of thing put together. So we're going to encourage that, and depending on what's decided here tonight, we'll start getting that advertised as quickly as possible. Really no other major changes other than what I had shared previously. PE classes, students are not dressing for PE this year. Locker rooms will be off limits. Band and chorus, Mr. Harmon has been in regular communication with the band and chorus instructors. They're putting plans together for how they're going to do that. Obviously, we know we can't get that number of kids in a close space together at the same time. That's going to be a tough one. So we're trying to work through that, I would say. And I appreciate Mr. Harmon working on that. I have asked Alicia Kessler, and I commented in here, I've asked Alicia Kessler to order the equipment so that we can send a Wi-Fi signal across our junior, senior high parking lot. That I hope is beneficial for those folks who maybe don't have good internet access at home, but yet if they have a vehicle and reliable transportation, they need to access good internet service. They can come up here to this high school parking lot and they'd be able to get that. There will be some expense to that, of course, but I think it's worth the money that we're sending. I've tried to highlight in here several times the new phone number. We're working through some issues on that. That new phone number is 217-775-6049. So I'll be happy to entertain any questions, and we can absolutely start discussion on this. And I don't claim that this is perfect. I can tell you that Mr. Harmon and Mrs. Helmers and I have been on a lot of Zoom calls and Google Meets with a lot of other school districts, talked to a lot of people. No two plans are exactly alike. We are further ahead than some, and we're behind others. There are districts who have released their plans, then ISBE changes guidance, and now they're releasing a revised plan. So is this going to change again? Yeah, pretty likely. You'll notice on this new version I've put in here several times, it's probably going to change. And people need to understand that it is going to change, and some of it may be by our choice, and a lot of it may not be by our choice. So I'm happy to entertain questions, comments, concerns. I will say I appreciate Michelle Renfro and 5 other teachers who have been involved in helping us with this and have reviewed it. We've tried to involve them from the beginning. We have another meeting with them that I've scheduled for Friday to start talking about what happens when and if we go to full remote learning and what's that going to look like. So we want to start that conversation. Okay? Questions, concerns, and comments?
Sean, did you get all that?
Yeah, I did.
Good.
And Sean, I had Sean Finney, for those who might be watching online, is joining us via telephone. So any votes we take tonight will be roll call votes. As a result of that, he's one of our board members. So Sean, I did send you the updated version yesterday via email, I believe.
Yep, I did get that.
Okay, thank you.
Question? Go ahead, Sean.
Do we think that anyone from the state is going to make a recommendation to have everyone do kind of the same thing for the first quarter? I know, obviously, they released the IHSA came out today, and I think the Illinois Health Board came out today and announced stuff for sports. Do we anticipate them doing something similar for students in school, whether they're saying everyone go back or everyone do remote learning, or a combination of both to kind of override what we maybe talk about tonight, or do we have any idea?
So Sean is asking if we think we're going to get more directives from the state. My personal opinion is that any directive that we get from the state at this point is going to be going what I call back to phase 3 and doing everybody remote. I do know there are some districts that are contemplating a lot of different ideas. We believe that there may be a possibility that if we do go back to full-time remote, there may be some exception made for some special education students, and we might be looking at the possibility of bringing them into school yet. We'll see how that goes. So at this point, I don't think we're going to get much more guidance before the start of school unless there happens to be just a really big spike in our area. I know Mr. Harmon and I looked the other day on the IDPH website, and the region of the state in which we're located has the lowest positivity rate in the state as of right now. I think there are some hot spots in our region, but right now our positivity rate is fairly low. That was as of July 25th. That's correct. So another thing that's in here is dismissal of school at 2 o'clock. That is so that we can give our teachers time to plan remote lessons. We do think we'll have a significant number choosing remote for various reasons. On a Google Meets that I participated in with lots of superintendents today, there were about 15. Mr. Harmon sat in with me on that. Most districts are anticipating about 15% of their students will choose remote. So that's a pretty significant number that we're going to have to provide some instruction for, and we have to give teachers time to do that. It's going to take a lot of time. The teachers made a lot of progress last spring in learning how to do that, but we know we have to come further, and I think providing the necessary time is going to be a big step in that. And I think also the benefit for kids is that they're coming back to school for the first time in 5 months. We're asking them to wear masks. So shortening that day helps to get them back in the groove a little bit too, I think.
Is there a consensus among our teachers as to remote learning or in school, Mr. Fisher?
Okay, so I think that question is maybe for myself and for Michelle Renfro. The question is there a consensus among teachers about whether we should do remote or in person? I don't know that there's 100%. I think most people, Michelle, you correct me if I misspeak. I think most people would prefer to be in person. That's what we know how to do best. But I don't know that that's 100%. I mean, obviously people are concerned about their safety and the safety of loved ones if something were to happen at school. But I think people believe we're trying to take safety precautions seriously. And so I think most want to come back. Would you agree with that, Michelle? She's shaking her head, yes, Sean.
Thank you.
On that same topic, we have some teachers, I think, that are at what I consider higher risk. What do we do with them? Is there an opt-out? Can they take a 1-year leave of absence that we don't hold against them? Things like that.
I think what's going to happen is if the teacher can work from home, we're going to be required by law to provide that accommodation. And we believe that is a possibility. We have at least one I can think of in particular that might be a possibility. We may have to put a substitute in that classroom for supervisory reasons, but we believe that teacher may be able to participate and actually still do the vast majority of the teaching from home.
All right. To the board members, I guess the questions become do you have questions on the agreement as it's presented? And obviously there's a couple hot topics that I know other schools have had to vote on that we should probably at least discuss so that community members know that we're doing it. And that is the use of masks, which is obviously a requirement from our Illinois State Board of Education, and then the extracurriculars, which has also now been confirmed by our attorneys. So those were, I think, two of the biggest questions that we had coming into this meeting, along with how the whole school scenario is going to work. So is there any questions on that? Okay, just wanted to make sure because I know that's a couple things that we had talked about.
Okay, thanks. So what I'm asking for is an approval of this plan with the edits that I've put in front of you. Michelle Renfro, did you get a copy of that revised? Okay, I might have emailed you yesterday. I made a couple of changes after Kevin and Denise and I had met yesterday. So I'm asking for approval of that plan and for us to get started advertising this and getting the word out. I know there are a lot of people who are waiting on that, and I appreciate the patience of the community and the parents in waiting on us to get this done.
Okay, if there's no other discussion, I'd take any motions on the approval of the plan to restart school. Don Stroll made the motion to approve the plan to restart school as presented. Need a second? Second by Michelle Shin. I need a roll call, please.
Titus. Yes. Butler. Finney. Yes. Sheehan. Yes. Stroll. Yes. Campbell. Yes.
All right, that vote to plan to restart school was 7-0 in favor of our plan as presented to restart school. Next item is item 5, closed session for exception 1. The employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body, and exception 11, pending litigations.
I move we go into closed session for exception 1 and exception 11.
Motion was by Michelle Shin to go into closed session for exception 1 and exception 11. I need a second. Julie Butler seconded. Roll call, please.
Sheehan.
Yes.
Stroll. Yes. Titus. Yes. Butler. Yes. Finney. Yes. Campbell.
Yes. All right, we are in closed session for exception 1 and exception 11.
So for those who've been watching at home, we're going to shut down the live stream right now for closed session. Upon returning back to open session, we'll turn that live stream back on. It's expected that we'll accept some resignations and hire personnel when we come back into open session.